Hello, welcome to the Tea Party Honey channel. Well, the NBA players are going to be allowed to put social justice statements on the back of their jerseys, says a report, and the move will be made with Nike. Wow, surprise! Not really. No. Social justice. Why does justice need a prefix to be just? Doesn't the word justice kind of take care of all the needs of justice? Apparently, some people disagree, but I'm not sure they're actually creating a situation with more justice being spread by putting prefixes on words that don't need prefixes. As a result of the agreement between the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association, players participating in the upcoming season restart will be allowed to replace their last name on the back of their jerseys with a statement on social justice. Because I guess we don't need to know who they are anymore? So says them. Another report from the LA Times points out that this move is being done in conjunction with Nike. Remember when Nike used to sell shoes instead of propaganda? Who serves as the athletic wear sponsor of the NBA? In recent years, the NBA players have been quick to adopt relevant aesthetics in the face of social injustice around the country, being in the national consciousness, particularly the Black Americans. Well, that seems a bit racist. Why aren't they doing it to all groups? Because if you're putting one group above another, isn't that the definition of discrimination and possibly racism? Pretty sure it is. Good going, NBA. Following the death of Eric Garner and at the hands of New York police, players like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Kyrie Irving wore shirts that say "I can't breathe." You know, if they really want to put a message on the back of their shirt that prevents many of these cases coming out so poorly, they should simply write on the back, "Do not resist arrest." Be amazed at the amount of incidents that would cease to exist if people followed that concept. Do not resist arrest. Problem solved in enormous amounts of cases, and it would actually have a positive effect. As has been pointed out by several, the cops aren't the judge. They kind of are when they decide whether or not they're going to arrest you. But from that point on, they are no longer the judge. And you will get your opportunity to defend your case with the judge. Put your energy towards that and close your mouth. You have a right to remain silent. For Pete's sakes, follow it. They can and will use everything you say against you. They're not lying. So shut your mouth. Don't resist. Put on the pretty little bracelets, get in the car, take the ride, get your mugshot, and good luck. But if you want to make a big difference, don't resist arrest. Nike has also pushed to attach anti-racism messaging into its advertising. Yeah, we've seen. Creating a commercial that encourages viewers to not ignore the problem of systemic racism in America in the wake of George Floyd's death. Is there any story that comes out in the news that doesn't have that tagline? In the wake of George Floyd's death. Talk about exploitation. I mean, it's becoming like Lewis and Clark. It's not even Lewis and Clark. It's one word, Lewis and Clark. So let's take a look at this. I've been thinking about this. What do you think? I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as anti-racism. There's either racism or there's no racism. Once you try and do anti-racism, you start pitting the races against each other instead of getting rid of racism. So, seriously, think about that. Anti-racism compared to no racism. If you say, "I support no racism," you didn't raise anybody. But if you say you're anti-racism, you're looking for a target. You're looking for a fight. No racism, no fight. Hey, I support no racism. Who are you going to fight with? Anybody that does it. Exactly. But if you say anti-racism, well, in order to be anti, there has to be a pro, and now you have to go find them. So, I think people should consider that want a peaceful world and a world without racism to ask for a world without racism by saying, "I want no racism," instead of anti-racism, because they're not the same when you actually start applying them. They're really, really not. Let's see. Oh, yeah, now about that systemic racism. It would be lovely if all these people that are concerned about systemic racism would start asking who built the system that has the racism they don't enjoy or despise or want to stop. Who built that system? Who's running the system? And once you figure out who built that system and who's running it, then you know who to replace. But it sure seems to me that most people that are complaining about systemic racism want to empower far more of the people who currently run it. They want to give them more power. That seems an odd way to solve your problem, but it does seem to be a popular concept. So, there we are. NBA players will start looking like NASCAR drivers with all the little stickers, and it's like, but instead of saying STP and Tide and a bunch of products, it's going to say something to the degree of picking a target and fighting with them. No racism. None. It's like the old saying goes, I may not be able to describe what pornography looks like, but I know it when I see it. Same thing with racism. You know it when you see it. Well, depending on when you went to school, there's a lot of schools that teach it so bad now, it's unbelievable. Then the amount of people that actually know the real definition between racism, racist, and racial, I don't think that number is nearly large enough. Racist, racial, and racism, they're not synonyms. They share the same root word for good reason, but they're not synonyms. It's like people who use the word bigotry and prejudice interchangeable when they're in effect exactly the opposite definition. If you are prejudiced, you are prejudging your situation. You cannot live life in a thinking manner without prejudging what's going to happen. In science, they call it a hypothesis. Hypothesis is prejudging what you think is going to happen. Then you do the experiment and you find out if it works. So prejudice is the result of thinking. Then you do the experiment and then you determine if your hypothesis was correct. You determine if your prejudice was correct. If it's not, you fix it and go back and do it again. That's the scientific method. There's more steps. But bigotry is I've received the new information and I just don't care. So, in short, prejudice is the result of thinking, and bigotry is the result of not thinking. They're 180 from apart. Just like racist, racial, and racism, they are not the same. And if more people understood the language before the liberals and progressives destroy it, the better we'd be. But the new speak is out there, like social justice. Folks, there's no such thing as social justice. There's justice or there's not. There's racism or there's not. We'll see you in the future.